I always thought the most dangerous thing in my marriage would be something obvious. Cheating, money problems, midlife crisis with a motorcycle and bad tattoos. Turns out, it was YouTube. My wife Vanessa didn't change overnight. It was more like watching someone slowly switch operating systems while pretending everything was fine. We'd been married 8 years, nothing dramatic. House, dog, shared bills, same grocery store, same Friday takeout, comfortable, predictable, real. And then one day she started saying things like, "I feel like I'm evolving." That's never good. You don't hear that sentence in happy marriages. You hear it right before someone starts speaking like a podcast intro. At first I laughed. "Evolving into what?" I asked. "Should I buy more bananas or something?" She didn't smile. "I'm serious, Daniel. I know. That's what worries me." Then came the next stage. "I need growth. I feel like we're in different places." "You're comfortable." Comfortable. That word started appearing a lot, like she discovered it in a handbook titled How to Politely Say Your Husband is Boring. One night we were sitting on the couch. She was scrolling through clips of relationship panels. You know the type. Bright studio lights, dramatic music, and 3 people arguing about high-value energy, like they were negotiating nuclear treaties. The woman on the screen said, "If you feel like you've outgrown your partner, it's not selfish to choose yourself." Vanessa nodded slowly. I looked at her. "That sounds expensive," I said. "What?" "Choosing yourself. Usually ends with 2 rents." She sighed. "You always joke." "I joke when strangers try to convince my wife I'm holding back her spiritual destiny." She muted the TV. "You don't take things seriously." "I take them seriously. I just don't take internet therapists seriously." That conversation ended the way most of them started to end, with her going quiet and me feeling like I just argued with a motivational poster. The real shift came a few weeks later. Her friend Kelsey came over. Kelsey always talked like she was narrating a documentary about her own life. Loud opinions, confident tone, zero accountability. I walked into the kitchen to grab water and heard Vanessa say, "He's not a bad guy, he's just stayed the same." I stopped. Kelsey asked, "So you feel like you outgrew him?" Vanessa laughed softly. "Yeah, I think I did." Clean, calm, no hesitation. Kelsey leaned forward. "Then why are you still with him?" Vanessa shrugged. "Because he's stable. For now. For now." I opened the fridge so they'd know I was there. The conversation died instantly. Kelsey turned around with a smile. "Hey, Daniel." "Hey," I said. "Didn't mean to interrupt my performance review." Vanessa shot me a warning look. I grabbed my water and left. No fight, no drama. But something changed. Not heartbreak. Clarity. After that, I started noticing things. More time on social media. More self-growth quotes. More posts about becoming the woman you were meant to be. One evening, she was on the phone in the bedroom. I walked in mid-sentence. "He's good," she said. "Just not inspiring." She saw me in the mirror and quickly turned away. "Hey," she said. "Just talking to Marissa. Tell Marissa I apologize for my lack of inspirational content." "Daniel?" "No, it's fine. Should I start doing TED Talks in the garage? How to unclog drains and still be emotionally available?" She shook her head. "You're twisting things." "No, I'm listening." Silence. She crossed her arms. "I just feel like I'm growing and you're staying." "Yeah," I said. "That's usually how stability works." She didn't respond. 3 days later, she came home looking excited. Actually excited. Something I hadn't seen in months. "Something interesting happened," she said. "I was at the table paying bills." "Did the dog finally apologize to the mailman?" She ignored that. "A producer contacted me." I looked up. "Producer?" "For a relationship show." That sentence landed like a glass hitting tile. "What kind of show?" "They talk about modern relationships, personal growth, compatibility. And they called you because—" She hesitated for half a second. They're doing an episode about women who feel like they've outgrown their husbands. There it was. No music, no warning. Just my marriage summarized into a TV topic. You said yes? I asked. I said I'm interested. I leaned back in the chair. So you want to go on television and explain how you're better than me? It's not like that. Then explain it in a way that doesn't sound exactly like that. She sighed. It's just a conversation. No, Vanessa. A conversation is between two people. This is between you, me, and a studio audience with popcorn. I wouldn't say anything bad. I actually laughed. You wouldn't? The topic is literally, I outgrew my husband. What's the nice version of that? She softened her tone. It's about honesty. Honesty usually starts at home, not under studio lighting. She didn't answer immediately. That told me everything. Her phone buzzed. She glanced down, a small smile. They want to schedule a call, she said. I nodded slowly. Of course they do. And that was the moment I realized something important. My wife wasn't trying to fix our marriage. She was preparing to narrate it. The call with the producers happened 2 days later. She took it in the bedroom with the door half closed, which is the universal sign for, I want privacy, but also want you to accidentally hear that I'm important now. I was in the kitchen pretending to clean the same already clean counter for about 10 minutes. Not because I wanted to spy, but because when your wife is auditioning your marriage for television, curiosity becomes a survival instinct. I heard pieces. Yes, we've been together 8 years. He's a good guy. I just feel like I've grown emotionally. Sometimes I feel more like his guide. Guide. That was new. Apparently, I was now on a spiritual tour led by my own wife. She came out smiling. They loved my perspective, she said. I bet they did, I replied. Nothing sells like a calm dismantling of a marriage. You're being negative. I'm being realistic. They're not calling couples who say, we communicate well and respect each other. She sat down across from me. They want me on next week. That was fast. They think the topic resonates. I'm sure it does. Nothing brings people together like publicly ranking their spouse. She ignored that. It's just a conversation. I'll be respectful. You already said that. And I mean it. I nodded. Okay. That seemed to surprise her. Okay? She repeated. Yeah. Go. She studied my face. You're not upset? Oh, I'm definitely upset. I'm just also curious. About what? How far this goes? She didn't like that answer. Over the next few days, she started preparing. And when I say preparing, I mean rehearsing like she was about to defend a thesis titled, Why My Husband is Emotionally Underqualified. She wrote notes on her phone. She practiced lines in front of the mirror. She even asked me casual questions that were obviously research. Do you feel like you've grown in the last few years? She asked one evening. Physically? No. Emotionally? I now understand when people say they're tired of questions. That's not helpful. I'm not applying for the show. She sighed and typed something. Another night she was on speaker with Kelsey. I don't want to sound harsh, Vanessa said. Kelsey laughed. Just be honest. Honesty always lands. That's what I'm thinking. Like, I love him, but I've evolved. There was that word again. Evolved. Like she'd sprouted wings and I was still figuring out socks. Kelsey added, Say you feel like his mentor. That's strong. Mentor. Guide. Next step was probably life coach. Vanessa nodded. Yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm his mom. I leaned against the hallway wall and closed my eyes. You'd think hearing that would trigger rage. It didn't. It triggered something colder, like watching a storm roll in and realizing you're not going to run. You're just going to stand there and let it happen. That night she showed me her outfit options. Too formal? She asked, holding up a blazer. For telling millions of people you've outgrown me? No, that seems appropriate. Daniel. I'm kidding. Wear whatever makes you comfortable. She chose something sharp and confident. neutral tones, professional, the kind of outfit people wear when they're about to deliver opinions with authority. The morning of the show, she was buzzing with energy. "I'll text you when I'm there," she said. "Okay. You could watch, you know." "I might." She smiled like that was a victory. Before leaving, she paused. "I won't say anything hurtful." I nodded. "You keep saying that." "I mean it." She left. The house felt quiet in a way that wasn't peaceful, more like waiting. I didn't plan to watch live. I really didn't. I told myself I'd just check later. But around noon, curiosity won. I pulled up the stream on my laptop at work and put on headphones. The show started with bright music and exaggerated enthusiasm. "Today," the host announced, "we're talking about what happens when one partner grows and the other stays the same." Perfect. Vanessa walked on stage smiling, confident, relaxed, like she belonged there. I sat back in my chair. The host asked her first question. "So, Vanessa, what made you feel like you outgrew your husband?" She answered without hesitation. "I started working on myself emotionally, reading, reflecting, understanding my needs, and I realized I was doing most of the growth alone." The audience nodded sympathetically. I whispered, "Of course they are." She continued, "He's a good man. He really is. But sometimes I feel like I'm guiding him, like I'm the one pushing the emotional maturity." There it was. Guide. The host leaned forward. "So you feel more like his mentor?" Vanessa smiled. "Yes, exactly." The audience murmured. Some even laughed softly, like this was relatable. My jaw tightened. Then she added, "Sometimes I feel like I'm his mom." That one got actual laughter, not cruel laughter, but enough. I stared at the screen. The host asked, "Why stay in the relationship if you feel that way?" Vanessa tilted her head slightly. "Because he's stable, he's reliable, and, for now, that still matters." For now, same phrase, same calm tone. I leaned back slowly. The host nodded. "So you're unsure about the future?" Vanessa took a small breath. "I'm not sure he's the kind of man you grow toward, you know? Someone you follow." That was it. That was the line. "I'm not sure he's the kind of man you grow toward." The audience reacted louder, some surprised, some approving. I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness. Just a quiet click in my head. Like a lock turning. I watched the rest in silence. When the segment ended, she smiled, waved, and thanked the host. The show cut to commercials. I closed the laptop. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed. "Vanessa, did you watch?" I stared at the message, then typed, "Yes." 3 dots appeared. I waited. "Vanessa, you understand it's just the format, right?" I smiled slightly. "Me, yeah, I understand." Another pause. "Vanessa, we'll talk tonight?" I looked at the screen. "Me, sure." I put the phone down. And for the first time since all of this started, I stopped wondering what she meant and started thinking about what I was going to do next. That afternoon, I didn't rush home. I finished work, answered emails, even stopped for gas like it was a completely normal day. It wasn't. But I've learned something over the years. When everything around you suddenly gets dramatic, the calmest thing you can do is slow down. By the time I got home, Vanessa was already there. She was sitting on the couch with her phone in her hand, clearly waiting. The TV was off. The house felt staged, like we were about to shoot another episode. "Hey," she said carefully. "Hey." I put my keys on the table and hung my jacket. No tension in my movements, no sighs, just routine. She watched me the entire time. "So, you watched?" she asked. "Yeah." "And?" I sat in the armchair across from her. It was well produced, her eyebrows pulled together. "That's it?" "You looked confident. You spoke clearly. The lighting was flattering." "Daniel, what?" "I'm asking how you feel." I leaned back. You already told them. She blinked. What does that mean? You explained everything. You feel like my mentor. Sometimes my mom. I'm stable. For now. I'm not someone you grow toward. She shifted uncomfortably. It sounds harsher when you repeat it. Funny how that works. I didn't mean it in a cruel way. I know. You meant it in a thoughtful, well-articulated way. That's not fair. No, it's accurate. She rubbed her temples. It's just a format. They ask pointed questions. And you gave pointed answers. Silence settled between us. She softened her tone. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I believe you. That seemed to relieve her slightly. But, I added, intent doesn't change impact. She looked down. I still love you. I know. You do? Yeah, she frowned. You're being very calm. I'm thinking. About what? I met her eyes. About what you said. She nodded slowly. And? And I think you were honest. Her shoulders relaxed a little more. She took that as agreement. I just needed you to hear it, she said. I did. And maybe this helps us grow. I almost smiled at that. Almost. Maybe, I said. We didn't argue. We didn't yell. We didn't cry. Which, ironically, probably worried her more than anything else. That night she went to bed early. I stayed up in the living room with my laptop. Not to rewatch the show. To think. People imagine revenge as something loud and emotional. Mine started quietly, with me opening a blank notes document. I wrote down 3 things. What she said publicly, what she said privately, what she might say next. Then I started checking. Vanessa wasn't careful. She wasn't hiding anything, because in her mind, she hadn't done anything wrong. Her social media was full of comments under clips from the show. You're so brave. You deserve someone on your level. Don't settle. Queen energy. She liked almost all of them. That told me more than anything. The next morning she was cheerful, lighter, like she'd unburdened herself. People are responding really positively, she said over breakfast. I'm not surprised. I think it sparked an important conversation. About upgrading husbands? She rolled her eyes. You're twisting it again. No, I'm summarizing. She checked her phone again, smiling slightly. Somebody clipped the part where I said, I'm not sure you're someone to follow. It's getting shared. Congratulations, I said. I'm trending. Daniel, it's fine. Fame suits me. She laughed nervously. That was new. She wasn't sure how to read me anymore. Later that day, while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. I wasn't planning to touch it. I didn't need to. The notification preview lit up the screen. Kelsey, you handled him perfectly. Don't backtrack now. Perfectly. Another buzz. Kelsey, remember what you said? Stable is temporary. I didn't pick up the phone. I didn't scroll. I didn't need more. Sometimes 2 lines are enough. That quiet click in my head from yesterday, it turned into a decision. Not anger, not revenge, just direction. That evening, Vanessa said, the producer emailed again. I looked up. Already? They're thinking about doing a follow-up segment, maybe bringing partners in. I nodded slowly. That could be interesting, I said. She tilted her head. You'd do it? Maybe. Her eyes widened slightly. Really? Sure. Conversations are good, right? She smiled, relieved. See? This is healthy. I returned the smile. Yeah, I said. Very healthy. And for the first time since she went on that stage, I knew exactly how this was going to end. She looked relieved when I said I might do the follow-up. Not just relieved, encouraged. Like she'd expected resistance and instead got cooperation. In her mind, that meant progress, growth, healing, whatever word she was currently using. You don't have to, she said, but her tone suggested she really hoped I would. I know, I replied, but if we're having conversations publicly now, I might as well participate. She nodded. It could be good for us. Yeah, I said, for clarity. She didn't catch the nuance. That evening she was unusually warm, not affectionate, just lighter. Like a pressure valve had been released. She cooked dinner, something she hadn't done on a weekday in months, and told me about comments people were leaving. Some women said they relate, she said, that they feel like they're carrying emotional growth alone. I cut my chicken slowly. I'm sure they do. It's not about blaming you. I didn't say it was. It's about awareness. Of course. She nodded again, like that reassured her. Calm in her mind meant acceptance. Acceptance meant she was right. After dinner, she sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone. Every few minutes, she'd smile faintly. I didn't ask what she was reading. I didn't need to. Around 9, she said, "People keep asking if we're still together. And what are you telling them? That we are, that we're working on things." That sounds accurate. She seemed pleased with that answer. Later, when she went upstairs, I stayed in the living room again. Laptop open, quiet house, same blank notes file. I started adding more. Public statements, private conversations, timeline. Not like a detective, more like someone organizing thoughts before a meeting, because that's what this was becoming. A conversation. Just not the one she expected. The next morning, Vanessa left early for coffee with Kelsey. I knew because she announced it twice, which usually meant she wanted me to know she had somewhere important to be. "Don't wait for me for lunch," she said. "I won't." She paused at the door. "We're just talking." I assumed. After she left, the house felt quiet again. Not tense, just empty. I poured coffee and sat at the table, replaying the show in my head. Not emotionally, logically, the phrases, the tone, the audience reaction. Most people would focus on the humiliation. I focused on consistency. She wasn't improvising. She believed what she said. That mattered. Around noon, she texted, "Lunch with Kelsey ran long. She says you handled it better than she expected." I stared at the message. Me. Glad to exceed expectations. She responded with a smile emoji. That afternoon, she came home energized. "Kelsey thinks the follow-up could be really good," she said. "For ratings? For closure. Those are sometimes the same thing." She laughed softly, assuming I was joking. "They might ask you how you felt watching," she continued. "Just be honest." I plan to. "And don't feel like you need to defend yourself," she added quickly. "It's not about winning. I'm not interested in winning." That answer seemed to reassure her again. She sat down next to me. "I think this could actually help us." "How?" "By putting everything on the table." "Okay." She leaned back, satisfied. "I'm glad you're open to it." That night she fell asleep quickly. I stayed awake longer, staring at the ceiling. Not angry, not replaying arguments, just assembling. When people think of preparation, they imagine gathering evidence like a courtroom drama. Mine was simpler. I was preparing clarity. The next day, she received the official email while we were both in the kitchen. "Oh," she said, reading. "They want both of us on Friday." "That soon?" "They say it keeps momentum." "Of course it does." She looked up. "Are you still okay with it?" "Yes." "You're sure?" "Yeah." She smiled. "Good. I think this will be productive." I almost laughed at that word. Productive. Like we were optimizing a workflow instead of dismantling a marriage. Later that evening, she said, "They asked if there's anything you want them to know beforehand." "Tell them I'm calm." "That's it?" "That's it." She nodded. We watched TV together that night, not really watching, just sitting in the same room. At one point, she reached for my hand. I let her hold it. It felt polite, familiar, distant. "You're not mad at me, right?" she asked quietly. I turned to her. "No," I said truthfully, because I wasn't. Anger burns hot and fast. What I felt was colder, more stable, almost resolved. She squeezed my hand. "I really think this is a step forward." "Maybe it is." And as she leaned back against the couch, comfortable in the belief that everything was heading toward understanding, I realized something. She thought the second show was going to validate her. I was planning to let it clarify everything. Thursday evening unfolded in that oddly careful way people behave when they both know something important is coming, but neither wants to poke it too hard. Vanessa had the producer's email open on her laptop and kept rereading it like it might change its meaning if she looked at it long enough. She scrolled slowly, lips pressed together, then scrolled back up, eyes moving across the same lines again. I sat across from her with a mug in my hands, watching the steam fade. "They want us there an hour early," she said finally without looking up. I nodded. She continued reading. "They're doing a short pre-interview, just to understand the tone, I guess. They said they want the conversation to focus on growth and communication, and where we go from here." She said that last part carefully, like she was testing how it sounded out loud. "That makes sense," I replied, keeping my voice neutral. She glanced at me, clearly trying to measure something in my face. "You don't seem nervous." "I don't see a reason to be." "I am," she admitted. "Not because of you, just because it's public again. I don't want it to turn into something messy." "It won't," I said. "There's nothing to gain from that." She leaned back in the chair, exhaling. "I just want it to feel constructive, like we're actually addressing things." "I understand." We moved through dinner quietly, not in silence, but in that restrained rhythm where each comment feels slightly deliberate. She mentioned a few new comments under the clip, some supportive, some dramatic. She read one aloud about choosing growth over comfort, then looked up to see how I'd react. I didn't react much. I just nodded and kept eating. Afterward, she went upstairs to pick clothes, and when I followed later, the bed looked like she was preparing for 3 different versions of herself. A navy blazer, a lighter one, a soft beige top, darker shoes lined up neatly. She stood in front of them with her arms folded, considering. "I don't want to look confrontational," she said, "but I also don't want to look uncertain." "You won't," I told her. She held up the navy blazer against herself, checking it in the mirror. "This one feels balanced, strong but not aggressive. It looks good." She hung it separately, like the decision mattered. "You should probably wear something simple," she added. "Not too casual." They said neutral tones read better on camera. "I'll manage," I said, half smiling. She gave a small laugh, but her eyes stayed thoughtful. "You're really calm about all of this." "I'm thinking more than reacting." She studied me for a second, then nodded slowly, apparently satisfied with that explanation. Later we sat on the couch with the TV on, neither of us really following what was happening. She scrolled through comments, occasionally pausing, sometimes smiling faintly. At one point she showed me her phone, a comment calling her brave, and watched me like she wanted confirmation that it was deserved. After a while she leaned her head back, closing her eyes. "I just hope tomorrow doesn't feel tense," she murmured. "It doesn't have to," I said. She reached for my hand and I let her hold it. The gesture felt familiar, almost automatic, but there was a distance to it now, like something remembered rather than something current. "I appreciate you doing this," she said quietly. "It's fine." She squeezed my fingers once, then stood and said she wanted to sleep early. I stayed downstairs a while longer, listening to the quiet house, letting the stillness settle. The next morning she was already up, moving with that purposeful energy people have before something they've rehearsed in their head. Coffee brewed, hair neatly done, makeup subtle but precise. She spoke less than usual, but not in a tense way, more focused. "They want me there earlier," she said while grabbing her bag. "I'll text you when I'm in makeup." "Okay." She paused at the door, like she wanted to say something else, then just nodded and left. I took my time getting ready. Nothing dramatic, just a neutral shirt, dark jacket, the kind of outfit that didn't draw attention to itself. The drive to the studio was quiet and uneventful, traffic moving normally, which somehow made everything feel even more unreal. The building looked smaller in person, a banner near the entrance, and crew members carrying cables and coffee cups. Inside, a production assistant greeted me with practiced enthusiasm and led me down a hallway to a waiting room. Vanessa was already there, sitting with a producer, posture straight, hands folded loosely in her lap. When she saw me, she smiled, not wide, but relieved. "You made it," she said. "Of course." The producer shook my hand, thanked me for coming, and spoke about wanting a meaningful conversation. I nodded, keeping things brief. Vanessa went to makeup, and when she returned a few minutes later, she looked composed, ready. She sat beside me and quietly asked if I was okay. I told her I was. She touched my arm lightly, more for reassurance than affection. When they called us to the side of the stage, we could hear the host warming up the audience, laughter echoing through the studio. Vanessa took a slow breath and adjusted her blazer. "I just want this to go smoothly," she said, almost to herself. "It will," I replied. The stage manager started counting down, fingers raised in the air. Vanessa straightened her posture, eyes forward. I simply stood there, calm, hands relaxed. Then the cue came, and we walked onto the stage together. Vanessa smiled immediately, the same confident expression she'd worn in the first episode. She looked comfortable, like she had already rehearsed how she would sit, how she would hold her hands, how she would react. I sat down beside her. The host greeted us warmly, thanked us for coming, and turned to Vanessa first. "Last time you spoke about feeling like you had outgrown your husband. Since then, there's been a lot of response. How have things been at home?" Vanessa glanced at me briefly, then back at the host. "We've actually been talking more," she said. "It opened a conversation we probably needed." The host nodded. "And Daniel, what was it like watching that segment?" "Strange," I said. "It's not every day you hear your marriage summarized in 3 minutes." The audience gave a light chuckle. "But I understood what she was saying," I continued. "She felt she was growing. She wanted to express that." I listened. Vanessa looked at me, visibly relieved. She probably expected defensiveness. The calmness played in her favor. For now. The host leaned forward. "Did anything she said surprise you?" I shrugged lightly. "The public part did. The content, not really." The host turned back to her. "Vanessa, hearing him say that, what do you feel?" She exhaled softly. "I appreciate that he's open. I know it wasn't easy. I just wanted honesty." "So where do you both see things going from here?" Vanessa spoke first. "I think we're figuring out whether we're growing in the same direction. That's the real question." I looked at her, then at the host. "That's fair," I said. "Clarity is useful." The host smiled, clearly thinking the conversation was moving toward reconciliation. The audience leaned forward slightly, expecting something emotional. "Vanessa was right about one thing," I added. "She has grown." And hearing her say it publicly helped me understand exactly how she sees me. Vanessa nodded, again taking that as agreement. "And what did you understand?" the host asked. I paused just long enough to make it natural. "That I was stable," I said. "Reliable. Useful. For now." The host glanced between us. "And how did that make you feel?" I met the host's eyes. "Clear," I said. That single word hung for a second longer than expected. Vanessa's posture changed slightly. She wasn't smiling as easily now. She sensed the direction, but she still thought it was part of a constructive conversation. The host sensed something shifting and leaned in slightly, like she didn't want to interrupt but didn't want to lose momentum either. "So what does that clarity lead to?" she asked. "It leads to understanding," I said. She didn't just say she felt she was growing. She explained how she sees me, stable, reliable, not someone to follow, someone temporary. Vanessa's head turned toward me, not sharply, just enough to show she hadn't expected that framing. "I didn't say temporary," she interjected softly. I nodded. "You said for now." She shifted in her seat. "I meant that relationships evolve. I wasn't labeling him as—" "I know what you meant," I said calmly, and I appreciated the honesty. Vanessa watched me more closely now. The confidence from earlier had faded slightly. "And hearing that," the host continued, "what did you decide?" I took a breath. I decided she was right about something important. That if someone feels they've outgrown you, I said slowly, you don't argue. You don't try to convince them otherwise. You accept it. The audience grew quieter. Vanessa's eyes narrowed slightly, trying to read where this was going. I looked at her for a moment, then back at the host. And let him go, I added. Vanessa blinked, the first real break in her composure. Let them go? She repeated, her voice careful. She leaned forward slightly. I didn't say I wanted to leave. I know, I said. You said you weren't sure about the future. That's different. It is, but it points in the same direction. You're taking this too far. I thought we were moving toward understanding, not this. I leaned back slightly. You said you weren't sure I was the kind of man someone grows toward, I continued. You said you felt like my mentor, like my mom. You said I was stable, for now. I listened, and I think you deserve to grow without feeling held back. The host leaned forward slightly. Daniel, are you saying you're ending the relationship? I nodded once. I think she was right, I said. She has grown. And if she believes she's beyond me, I shouldn't ask her to stay. Vanessa looked at me, eyes wider now. I didn't say I was beyond you. You said you weren't sure I was someone to follow. That's not the same. It's close enough. She turned toward the host, searching for support. This isn't what I meant at all. I was talking about growth, not... I reached into the inside pocket of my jacket. The movement was small, but it changed the air in the room instantly. I pulled out a folded envelope and placed it on the table between us. Vanessa froze. Daniel, she whispered. I didn't come here to argue, I said. I came here to be clear. I slid the envelope slightly toward her. Those are the papers. The audience reacted, not loudly, but sharply, like a collective intake of breath. Vanessa didn't touch the envelope. She just stared at it. You're serious? She asked. Yes. I stood up. Thank you for having me, I said, calm, polite. Vanessa didn't stop me. She just sat there, holding the envelope, staring at the table. I walked off the stage without looking back. Behind me, the lights were still bright. The clip spread fast, but the real ending wasn't dramatic. Vanessa moved out 3 weeks later. No screaming, no last-minute confessions, just boxes, quiet conversations, and a strange politeness between two people who used to share everything. The divorce went through without a fight. We split things evenly, signed papers, shook hands, almost like colleagues finishing a project. The internet argued about the clip for a while. Some said I was cold, others said I was calm. Most of it faded within a month, replaced by the next viral story. I heard she stopped talking about outgrowing people. Her posts became quieter, more careful. Sometimes people asked if I regretted doing it publicly. I always answered the same way. No. She wanted honesty in front of everyone. I just finished the conversation the same way. If you felt this story hit hard, drop a like, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps Steelheart beating.